This tank will now go down from having a 6.76 second reload to 7.8-ish. You go down to, yeah, about 3080 DPM. I was wrong. Now, I don't know how we calculated it or how everybody else came to the same conclusion as I did, that it was somehow going to be 7.8 seconds reload time with Bond Rammer. However, it happened and we got it wrong. So the S Conq actually sits pretty well with the new changes. And in my opinion, it's fine with the changes. Now, unfortunately, I can't remove these two, and it fills up half my screen, so it's really annoying. But as you can see, we have 3220 DPM, and that is just using a Bond Rammer. If we went and then used vents with the Rammer, we would have 3336. In my opinion, this makes it very, very nice, considering that if you chose to drop the HP and make your tank less effective, you would then get the DPM close to what it used to be. It's still not going to be ultra close, but it's close enough. So now you have choices, because beforehand you would just choose HP Turbo Rammer and just call it a day. But now you could go ahead and get rid of the HP or get rid of the turbo, depending on the map, and then choose this. So you could then go ahead and have two setups, one with HP, one with turbo, and decide on the map. Although I would still probably rather have this on most maps and then just forgo the extra DPM. So at least in future for me, this is what I'm going to do. I'll be playing with this and with this. But I wanted to get that straight away out of the way, because now that we can see all the buffs and nerfs on the test server, I got the S Conq wrong, okay? Everybody that I spoke to when we were working it out, we got it wrong. However, the standard equipment DPM leaves S Conq a little bit lacking. Because if you were to use standard equipment, where you just use a rammer, you would get close to what I was saying before, which is around about 3.1. And then you would get close to that. So that I don't think is good. Which means that then you would have to either use bounty or just straight up bonded if you want the S Conq to be anywhere close to being like it used to be. And I do honestly feel that this is way too low for an S Conq. Like, for an S Conq to have this little DPM with just, you know, your standard player using standard equipment, I think that that is way too low. But then again, if you're using bonded, that's not too bad. If you were to use vents and you put it into the correct slot and then you used a rammer as well, and then you could even go ahead and choose this, you would get close. Okay, you would get close to the DPM of just having a Bond Rammer. In fact, you would get slightly more DPM. You get 7 more DPM than if you just use a Bond Rammer. So, okay, I guess. But then at the same time, you would want to have either HP in there or you would want to have mobility in there. So you can't really afford to go and do that. I mean, yes, you could then go ahead and do this and then we replace that for that. So you're going to be looking at about 3,173 DPM. Either way, that is the S Conq. They are the changes. I've played it on the test server. It felt okay. I wouldn't... I mean, it could probably use a little bit less of a DPM nerf. I still think around about 0.5 seconds increase on the reload would have been better than the 0.9, where you nearly have a full second extra reload from the base reload. But whatever, it's fine. It's in the game now. Like, I mean, it's not in the game yet, but it's there, and 3,200 DPM is good enough. On the other hand, this thing, I feel, is actually broken on the test server right now. It is way too fast. Like, way too fast. This now, I mean, this is with using Bond equipment, but if we went and use standard, this still has a 23.8 power to weight. And it's not even got the turbo in the correct slot, because you can't put it in the correct slot. It goes 54 forwards and then 21 in reverse. Not to mention it has 2k hit points and then 3,250 average damage per minute. Yeah. I think that they should not have even touched the reverse speed or the specific power to weight. They should have left it just how it is. And I think that the tank would have been better like that. You could have... everything else on the tanks for the buffs, like the gun stats and whatnot, are great. But I think it goes way too fast, especially in reverse. Like, that thing gets basically instantly to 21 and is out of there. Or if you're using this one, instantly to 23 and is out of there. Now moving on to the Panzer VII, this is honestly just a nice quality of life update to the tank. Because it doesn't get any insane DPM, it doesn't get any insane changes to the tank, to be honest with you. It still goes pretty slow, 40 kilometers an hour with only 12 power to weight, and that is with a Bounty Turbo. However, the gun got a massive buff. 276 standard pen makes this the highest standard pen of any heavy tank at tier 10, and the 325 premium rounds makes this the joint highest, sort of. I mean, technically, the S Conq has 326, but that's basically the same, let's be honest. So joint highest for the APCR premium rounds of any heavy tank in the game as well. The HE is kind of just pretty meh, like 65 pen, it's not amazing, but it does get 700 alpha, so that's pretty decent. And now you have 0.29 accuracy, you have 12.5 second reload time, 560 alpha, 276 standard pen. This is quite a nice gun now. But I think that overall now this tank has been brought up to a stage where it is just nice to play. You know, it has the pen. Free-to-play players are probably going to like this a lot. It has the pen. It's had the gun mantlet changed. Not in the way that most people think, though. Okay, so the VKK. It currently has a weak spot on the turret here, as you can see. You'll be able to shoot it right in between here. And this is with just AP rounds with 246 standard pen. You can pen it. As you can see, this goes basically all the way up to about here, just as it starts to reach the very top. And yeah, that is a big old weak spot. So if a VKK is facing you, then you can quite easily just shoot this. Alternatively, the other one is down here. However, this is a lot easier to hit on the Panzer VII than it is on the VKK. The reason being is that each one of these, it has like a little kind of slot for the armor, and it gets effectively thicker as you go backwards. So yes, you can pen this, but if you go a little bit to the right, you're not penning that anymore. The lower plate is still exactly the same. It is very, very troll, and you will probably bounce if you shoot it with AP rounds. At least unless you have a lot more pen than 246. The thing about the VKK though is that there is a lip just around here, around the gun, which you just can't pen. And you can't pen the gun directly. We're on the live server for the Panzer VII right now. This is a lot weaker, and you could technically pen the gun if you have enough pen. But you can't do that at the moment with the VKK, and you still can't do that in the test server with the VKK. This is like 350 millimeters thick. But you can shoot here still. Now, the Panzer VII on the CT server is exactly the same armor layout right here as the VKK, meaning that you can still go ahead and pen it right here with 246 AP rounds. So no, nothing is going to technically change on the Panzer VII's kind of turret over here, apart from the fact that the ring around the gun and the gun itself cannot be penned anymore. Also, as you can see, the side is still super, super weak, and it gets a lot easier to pen all the way down here, and then it's kind of impossible once you reach like the ricochet angles kind of thing over here. But you could easily just pen this. It's no problem for standard rounds 248 or 246 standard pen. And the lower plate is still exactly the same as the VKK, where if you shoot it at a slight angle, you are probably not going to pen it. Like so. Also, another fun fact about this mantlet is that you can still pen this with heat. You can't pen this, obviously, but you can pen this bit, even with heat. So it doesn't really matter what it gets shot by, you're going to pen it. Now, when it comes to the Minotauro, they've actually nerfed this thing pretty well, in my opinion. I'll roll the clip in a second for the actual armor changes, but overall, this got buffed, sort of, like, kind of substantially. Like, they increased the engine power, they increased the traverse speed, and then nerfed it at the same time. So, I think that this actually still sits kind of exactly the same position, but it's just a lot easier to play against now. So for the Minotauro, let's go and have a look at what they've actually changed. Well, this is now orange. interesting. Does this change? Okay. So this is like a 50-50, right? I don't think there's anywhere here that... Oh, I mean, I can actually pen through that, which is interesting. But I mean, if that's hold down, then that's not going to be super easy. So, it appears that this can be penned now. And if I used heat... Wow. Wow. Okay. Has this been changed at all? Doesn't look like it. This is still pretty strong. So what happens if it's like this now against you? Because you can still actually pen this, which is pretty good. I wish I had the pen mod, but I don't because this is on the test server, so I don't actually see that. But all of this is still unpennable. There's no weak spots in the gun or anything like that, but this is still... You can pen it. It's not a guaranteed pen, by the looks of it, if it's using all its gun depression, which is good. But you can go through it now. You just need to high roll the pen. And this is with 330 heat, remember. So this is what a fair amount of tanks are going to have. Although there are a lot of tanks in the game now with 320 heat, which would obviously struggle against this. But can you even pen this as well? I mean, maybe you can pen this. But this is quite a big change. At least on flat ground, if you're firing heat at it, it dies now. There's no, like, you know, having to try and snipe the back cupola. You can now just make sure that you try and hit this right-hand cupola here, and it's dead. Which is how the tank should have been from the start. And it is also good that they haven't really nerfed this too much by the looks of it. I mean, maybe against 420, you know, Jagdpanzer 100 heat, yeah, you can go through it now. But at least against 330 heat, this looks okay on flat ground. Okay, and now against 375 APCR from the E3. This never really used a pen. So we'll soon find out if this is now a pen. As you can see, it's looking like it's orange pen marker. Maybe if we go right below here, can we pen it? No. Okay. There is actually a slight green mark here, but that's actually where you can overmatch the hull with this. As you can see here, you can overmatch the upper hull. But this looks like it's still pretty strong. And honestly, I kind of like that. Because if you're going to be able to just pen this, this should be strong. Right? This isn't, obviously, as you can see, unpennable. What about on the gun? Pretty strong. This is actually really well balanced, to be honest. Like, I was expecting this to be just ruined by high pen rounds. And probably still 420 heat, as I just said. We'll go straight through it. And maybe you will eventually get a high roll of the pen and you'll go through it. But by the looks of it, this is pretty good. Now, there is one thing that I want to find out, because this looks like it will go straight through and into the cupola at the back if you shoot through this. Because as you can see, like, you see how this little, whatever that is, your viewport, it just goes like straight into the back of it. So could you go through this? Because as you can see, this is all green, but I think I went through that in the standard rounds of the Minotauro. But this is obviously completely pennable. Like, this is so good now that this is here, and you can just pen this. But the rest of it is still super well done. And when it's above you like this, using all of its gun depression, you can still go through the cupola. It is still a green pen marker. On both the sides here, you could go... I mean, technically there's one little spot here where if you go down, but you can still pen this, and you will still be able to pen this. But you just won't be able to do anything here. You know what? That's actually well balanced. Like, I'm genuinely impressed that they've actually balanced this like this. And not just nerfed it into the ground. Like, good job. Well played. Now that's all I really want to talk about for today. because I want to make a video on the Polish TDs once they actually come out, because getting gameplay in them on a test server is not really the best. It's just not really how tanks are played on the test server. Like, you have everybody just playing tier 10, even if they've never played a game. So I don't think the test server is the best place to actually do like a review on them or even talk about them, because it could be completely different once you get into the live server. So once they come out onto the live server, I'll make a video on them and give you my first impressions. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, you know what to do. I'll see you all in the next video.